Sit at a long wooden table under a high ceiling, a lamp haloing a small circle of light. Around you, the university library hums faintly. Pages turning, a chair scraping, distant footsteps. You're not the only one here, but for a moment you feel like the only person who matters. That quiet ache, that's emotional loneliness. It's not simply being alone. It's the sense that no one really knows what's going on inside you. Emotional loneliness is a surprisingly common human experience, and it often slips by unnoticed because it doesn't hinge on visible isolation. You can be surrounded by people, classmates, family, coworkers, and still feel emotionally distant. This piece traces how emotional loneliness forms, what it feels like at different life stages, how it affects both your mind and body, and what actually helps: depth, trust, and emotional connection. At its heart, emotional loneliness is a loss of closeness. Psychologist Robert Weiss described it as the absence of close, trusting relationships. Imagine carrying a secret or a weight and having no one who truly understands the shape of it. That's different from social loneliness, which is more about a lack of social contact. Fewer phone calls, fewer parties, fewer acquaintances. You can have many acquaintances and still lack emotional intimacy. Emotional loneliness is the gap between your inner life and the people around you. So how does emotional loneliness feel in everyday life? People often use words like unseen, unsupported, or unable to share. Picture a dorm study room where a student stares at a notebook, chin resting on hand. They're surrounded by classmates who laugh and trade stories, but the student keeps their own worries tucked in. Large-scale surveys repeatedly show that when people report emotional loneliness, they also report higher stress and lower life satisfaction. In research terms, emotional closeness predicts well-being much better than the sheer size of one's social network. That tells you something important. One deep, honest relationship can matter more than 100 surface-level interactions. You also experience emotional loneliness in places full of people. In a bustling campus study lounge, one figure sits in clear focus while others blur into the background. You've probably felt that, being in a party or a busy office and realizing that the noise and activity aren't the same as connection. Trust and intimacy, not proximity, protect you from feeling emotionally cut off. Proximity is easy to achieve. Emotional safety is harder. It takes someone who listens without judgment, who remembers what you said last time, who can be present when you say something hard. To understand where emotional loneliness can originate, look back to early attachment. Attachment theory maps how first relationships with caregivers shape expectations and emotional responses. If a child's caregiver is consistently emotionally responsive, calm, attentive, available, the child learns that the world is a place where feelings are acknowledged and met. That secure attachment becomes a template for adult relationships. But if care is inconsistent, sometimes warm, sometimes distant, sometimes neglectful, the child may grow up expecting emotional unpredictability. That background doesn't doom anyone, but it lays the groundwork for later patterns. You might find yourself pulling back when someone tries to get close, or you might crave closeness but feel unsure how to invite it. Adolescence is a time when emotional loneliness often intensifies. As identity forms and you push for independence, your need for understanding and validation ramps up. Teenagers and young adults are emotionally tuned in and sensitive. That intensity makes perceived rejection feel more painful and connection more urgent. You might watch others seem to move easily between friend groups and feel like an outsider, even when you're not literally alone. Developmental psychologists note that emotional sensitivity peaks in adolescence, which means emotional loneliness can also become sharper and more noticeable during these years. Transitions magnify the problem. Moving to college, starting a new job, or relocating to a new city all introduce new social demands and expectations. The National College Health Assessment reports that a large portion of students, over 60% in recent surveys, say they felt very lonely at least once in the past year. Many students describe having lots of interaction without emotional depth. Shared classes, group chats, roommate proximity, but no one they feel safe telling the things that matter. That's emotional loneliness in motion. The friction between visible social activity and absent emotional resonance. Emotional loneliness is closely tied to mental health. Research published in medical journals shows that emotional loneliness reliably predicts depressive and anxious symptoms. You don't have to be completely isolated for loneliness to affect you. The feeling of being emotionally unseen is enough to increase stress and rumination. Emotional support, someone who listens, empathizes, and validates, acts as a protective factor. When you perceive that someone has your back emotionally, your stress response calms. You feel safer, more able to face challenges. The impact stretches beyond mood. Chronic emotional loneliness shows up in the body. Higher markers of inflammation, elevated blood pressure, disrupted sleep, and other physiological changes that accumulate over time. Scientists studying loneliness find links to long-term health risks because stress isn't just psychological. Your immune system, cardiovascular system, and sleep architecture register emotional distress. In practical terms, feeling emotionally disconnected isn't just miserable, it wears on your body. Technology complicates this picture. Smartphones, social media, and messaging apps let you stay in touch more than ever. But quantity doesn't automatically equal quality. Digital communication often lacks the subtle cues, tone, micro-expressions, body language that carry emotional nuance. Pew Research Center and other studies suggest that heavy social media use doesn't consistently lower loneliness, and sometimes it makes it worse. What matters more is responsiveness and vulnerability. When technology is used to deepen conversation and share honestly, it can help. When it becomes a stream of highlights, comparisons, and surface check-ins, it can widen the emotional gap. So what does emotional support actually require in practice? At its core, emotional support involves active listening, empathy, and validation. Active listening means more than waiting for your turn to speak. It's leaning in, asking thoughtful questions, and reflecting back what you hear. Empathy is feeling with someone, trying to understand their inner experience without immediately fixing it. Validation says, "I hear you and your reaction makes sense." Social psychology shows that these behaviors boost trust and psychological safety. Neurobiological studies also link supportive interactions to lower cortisol, your stress hormone, which explains why emotional support can make you physiologically calmer. Emotional loneliness doesn't go away simply because you join more clubs or attend more events. Interventions that only increase social contact often have limited success. The research consensus points to depth over breadth. A few meaningful connections are more protective than many shallow ones. So if you're trying to reduce emotional loneliness, focus on the quality of interaction, practice honest conversations, make time for emotional check-ins with friends, and be the kind of listener you wish you had. Different life stages bring different challenges. In later adulthood, emotional loneliness remains common and sometimes rises. More than 30% of adults over 50 report feeling emotionally alone at times. Changes like retirement, the death of peers, reduced mobility, or health problems can shrink a network of emotionally close relationships. For caregivers, the challenge is especially pronounced. People who spend their days supporting others, family caregivers, nurses, social workers, often give emotional labor without getting emotional reciprocity. That imbalance can lead to burnout and deepen loneliness. Support systems and peer networks are critical for those roles. Even short, honest conversations about the emotional weight of caregiving can be immensely helpful. At the organizational level, culture matters. Workplaces and schools can either deepen loneliness or help heal it depending on structure and norms. Mentorship programs, regular check-ins, and psychologically safe environments reduce emotional isolation. When leaders model vulnerability and curiosity, they permit others to be imperfect and human. Studies show that supportive workplace cultures correlate with higher engagement and lower burnout. Small structural choices, regular one-on-ones, spaces to talk about difficulties, and mentorship pathways can create more emotional connection than casual office social events alone. Therapy and counseling directly address emotional loneliness by modeling a secure, accepting relationship. In therapy, you practice naming emotions, tracking patterns, and learning to trust another person with your inner life. Clinical research demonstrates that therapy improves emotional awareness and relational trust, and the skills you learn in therapy often transfer to relationships outside the counseling room. Therapy isn't a magic bullet, but it's a powerful place to build new relational templates and undo older ones that were unhelpful. Educational institutions are uniquely positioned to help young people develop emotional connection. Peer mentoring, accessible counseling, and programs focused on belonging have been linked with better academic outcomes and persistence. Belonging is not a feel-good add-on, it's a core ingredient of learning and adaptation. When students feel emotionally supported, they invest more of themselves in study, in classrooms, and in campus life. Technology can also be used intentionally to strengthen emotional closeness. Video calls, voice notes, and thoughtful messages that invite vulnerability work better than quick likes or thumbs-up reactions. Depth of interaction matters more than the platform. Schedule a video call with a friend when you need to talk. Send a message that names how you're feeling, instead of hinting at it. Respond to a friend's vulnerability with a supportive question rather than a distraction. What can you do at the individual level? Start by practicing honesty and openness in small doses. Emotional check-ins, simple questions like, "How are you really?" followed by attentive silence. Build relational trust over time. Try to move beyond surface-level topics to conversations about hopes, fears, and experiences. If you're cautious about vulnerability, begin by sharing small, manageable truths and noticing how people respond. Often, others will mirror your openness. If a conversation goes well, that builds the muscle of intimacy. If you're in an organization or run one, think structurally, create mentorship programs, ensure regular opportunities for meaningful conversation, and cultivate psychological safety where mistakes and difficult feelings can be spoken about without retribution. Small rituals, weekly check-ins, paired mentoring, structured feedback signal that emotional connection is valued, not incidental. For caregivers, seek reciprocal spaces, peer support groups, professional supervision, or informal check-ins with friends who understand the work can provide emotional replenishment. Recognize that caregiving requires emotional labor and that replenishment is not indulgent, it's necessary. If loneliness feels overwhelming or persistent, therapy is a strong option. A therapist can help you trace patterns back to early attachment experiences, practice vulnerability in a safe space, and develop strategies for building secure relationships. Clinical evidence shows that therapy enhances emotional awareness and relational capacity, and the investment often pays dividends in broader life satisfaction. Across decades of research, a consensus emerges: emotional loneliness reduces resilience. Filling time with social activity alone rarely fixes it. What helps is depth, trust, emotional expression, and consistent responsiveness. Those are the skills and conditions that interventions should target. As you reflect, remember this practical point. Meaningful change often happens through small, steady habits. Set aside time for emotional check-ins with a friend. Try one honest conversation this week. Use video to talk instead of text when you need to go deeper. If you're in a position to influence culture at work, at school, or at home, ask what structures exist to make emotional safety routine rather than optional. Emotional loneliness is not an indictment of your worth. It's a signal that parts of your social environment aren't meeting an important human need. Awareness creates opportunity. When you notice the feeling, you can choose a response, reach out, practice honest conversation, seek spaces that model emotional safety, or get professional support. Each step builds trust incrementally. By the time you shut your notebook and step out of the library, you might still feel a fringe of that same ache. That's okay. Connection isn't instant, it's cultivated. Across life stages, childhood attachment, adolescent identity formation, college transitions, work life, caregiving, and later adulthood, emotional connection protects both mental and physical health. Knowing this doesn't make loneliness vanish, but it gives you direction. Prioritize depth, practice vulnerability, and build environments that make being seen easier. You're not meant to carry everything alone. The absence of people isn't the point, it's the absence of being understood. Seek the people who listen without rushing to fix, who remember the small details, who can sit with you in silence when words fail. Those relationships are the muscle against emotional loneliness. Sources include foundational work on emotional and social loneliness, modern studies linking loneliness to mental and physical health, public health advisories on the epidemic of isolation, national college health data, and analyses of digital communication and social behavior. If you're curious about the research, authors like Robert Weiss, John and Stephanie Cacioppo, Lisa Hockley, and reports from public institutions offer detailed insight. In the end, emotional loneliness is a quiet human experience, painful, common, and fixable in small, meaningful ways. Bringing honesty, empathy, and consistency into your relationships won't erase all hard feelings overnight, but it will make the world feel more like a place where your inner life is known and your presence is mattered. Keep the lamp on, reach out, and trust that connection grows with attention. If this video helped you better understand emotional loneliness, you're not alone, and you don't have to navigate these topics by yourself. Subscribe to this channel for more research-based videos on social emotional learning, mental health, and human connection. Explore the rest of the channel to continue learning how understanding creates meaningful change.